Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where bones try to kill us, because this week we listened to The Land of the Dead.
Written by Stephen Cole.
Directed by Gary Russell.
And released in January 2000 on 2 CDs and 2 cassettes.
Yeah.
Two double-sided cassettes.
Yeah, the cassettes were double-sided, so it was really like 4 sides. I guess each part had one side.
Yes. The CDs were also double-sided. No, I'm just kidding. They probably weren't.
That'd be impressive.
They weren't.
That'd be very impressive, actually.
I mean, you can have a double-sided CD, right? Like, it's possible.
I didn't think you could, but I guess I'll look it up. Double-sided CD.
There's no reason you can't, right? Other than just the fact that, like...
Okay, there was a double-sided optical disc produced in 2005, and it was discontinued in 2009.
That's interesting.
It had one side was just only an audio-only CD side, and the other side was a DVD-compatible side.
Huh. That's interesting. I mean, yeah, okay. Yeah, all right. Well, Stephen Cole, we looked up, has a pretty prolific, Doctor Who oeuvre under his belt, including novels written under the pen name Michael Collier or Collier.
And Tara Sams.
He has written for the Iris Wildtime character.
He's also written a lot of books in the dark years, let's say, and quite a few main range stories.
Yeah, and other Big Finish ranges as well.
He's currently the author of Young James Bond.
Huh.
Everybody's favorite book series.
Yeah.
Right? That's your favorite book series, right, Keon? Right?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Good.
Haven't read any of the books, but yeah, let's just go with that. Speaking of having not done things, I actually didn't listen to this, so I'm just going to be going off what they have on the TARDIS wiki. No, I'm just kidding. I did listen to this, obviously, and I'm glad I did, because of the 4 that we've listened to this season so far, this was my favorite. Now, you might be saying...
opposite for me.
You might be saying, but Keon, this story featured Nyssa. How could it be your favorite?
Wow. You're roasting yourself. I don't even have to do anything.
Yeah, well, you know who was really getting roasted here, right? We can ignore whether or not that was a self-roast. I don't think it was, but whether or not it was a self-roast is rather negligible compared to the true roasting that goes on here in the story.
What, Brett? Brett is the one who truly gets roasted.
Yeah. It was actually, like, pretty funny, like, how at the end the solution is just like to torch everything to death and blow the enemies up.
Kind of hilarious. It feels almost like they got written into a corner and they were like, oh no, how do we get out of this? And it's just fire!
I feel, we'll talk about this, but I feel that the story was resolved, like, thematically, yet that didn't really resolve the problem of the fact that there were, like, ancient beings wreaking havoc in the house. And so they had to just kill those with fire.
I mean, it's literally kill it with fire.
Right.
But, I feel the opposite of the story. Definitely my least favorite of the 4 we've listened to so far. Yeah. Just going to come out and say it. I actually really struggled I really struggled to get through this story. I listened to part 1 and 2 on the same day. Part 1 was pretty interesting. I was like, all right. So I listened to part 2, and then I'm like, wow, part 2. We ended part 2 in the same place we ended part 1, with no additional knowledge, and actually with the loss of one of the characters, and that's it. And then I listened to part 3 the next day, and I was like, damn, we're still in the same place. And so, like, I was going to listen to part 4 yesterday, and I went, like, 12 hours after listening to part 3, and I'm like, man, I really don't want to listen to part 4, but I have to. So I went to bed and just woke up early and listened to it, like, right before we recorded. And part 4 is okay.
Part 4 was riveting.
Yeah, that's a word. Congrats, you've chosen a word that exists in the English language to describe part 4.
The history and, like, story between Brett and Tulung, like, brought this story to life. Pun, I guess, intended there.
Wow.
Yeah, I truly liked the, what the story was kind of doing with its characters, and, they felt like they had, I don't know, something more to them. They had this unresolved history between them, which is always good. You have unresolved history, and then you bring it back, right, as unresolved prehistory. The Alaskan setting also worked well.
The fact that it was in Alaska didn't really play into the story, except that it was cold.
And the oil, actually the entire backstory is based on it being in Alaska, and what's his face's, their sort of history being Brett and what's his face, Tulung, that is, their sort of history revolving around this archaeological dig and the oil money and all this.
Yeah, but the archaeological dig and the oil money isn't unique to Alaska. I mean, you could have just as easily set the story in Texas if you wanted. It just wouldn't have been cold. That's why I'm saying the only real thing that, like, was necessary for it to be in Alaska was the cold, and the fact that that's how you're going to get, like, Permians frozen into the ice,
Yeah, that's a fairly reductive way of looking at this story, or any story, of just saying, well, just breaking it down to the bare bones necessity of what it is, because that's not how, like, a story is really, not constructed, but it's not really, like, it's not what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I guess I'm just saying they didn't actually, like, use the setting in any interesting way. I mean, I'm just, like, thinking of, like, Phantasmagoria, the fact that it was, like, old England was played into the story because they didn't know, like, how technology worked, and they incorporated the highwaymen, and then, like, Whispers of Terror was set in that auditory museum, so it was like everything was sound based. And this one is like, well, I guess they used are the Koyokan people, like, real, or did they make that up for the story?
They can't be fake, right? Like, there's no way. There's no way. Like, there's no. They are real. I don't know for sure, but there's no way.
I just googled it. They are
no,
real.
I know. Yeah, I'm just saying. Like, going in, I didn't know for sure, but it's like, yeah.
I guess they used the Koyokan people, but, like, There's actually a review on the timescales that I partially agree with. I don't completely agree with it, but there's a review on the timescales where someone was like, the story's, like, weird for the aspect that, like, it's good because it includes, like, native representation, but then, like, the whole story seems to, like, portray them as, like, dumb, basically, or, like,
just backwards, like,
yeah,
there is that sense to it. But two things about that. One, speaking of the timescales, why don't we just go ahead and color our entire commentary here by, we did it at the end last time, but what the hell, we're already here, right? So let's just talk about what the timescales thinks. And they're more in alignment with you once again.
Just once again proving that I'm correct.
I feel like this is going to start becoming a trend. Not that I am opposed to or unaccustomed to going against the grain. But yeah, the timescales, as we mentioned last week, they have their 4 ratings: plot, acting, effects, and replay, which for this story are 5.4 for plot, 6.3 for acting, 5.8 for effects, and 4.7 for replay. So it's at 5.7 overall, which is average, I guess,
Yeah, so, like, for me, I would probably put the story in that range, like, pretty perfectly average. Of course, we all know how internet reviewers work, so anything less than a 6 out of 10 is god-awful.
Right, yeah, 6 out of 10
like,
is, yeah.
But, like, the interpretation of this, I guess we can't interpret this number the same way. We have to remember that a 5.7 from the general internet populace is this story freaking sucks.
Yeah.
But for me, this is my least favorite of the 4, but I do recognize that there are some ideas in the story that I liked. I just found parts 2 and 3 to be boring, and that's why it's my least favorite, because it just was kind of a slog. And I don't know, I don't necessarily think that this is as bad as people seem to think it is on time scales. And my only point in bringing up that review, I guess, was to talk about, like, how somebody was like, oh yeah, it's weird how they, like, portray the native people of Alaska as, like, backwards, which I partially agree with. There's shades of that. I don't think they do it to the extent that reviewer does, but going all the way back, my reason of bringing that up was, like, I guess that's what they do with the Alaska setting of this story, so... Excuse me.
Yeah, well, so also, speaking of the Koyukon, you thought that, like, British people doing, like, Anglo-American accents was bad. You haven't heard Land of the Dead.
That actually is, like, my biggest complaint about the story is, like, Gaborik and Tulong are, like, they have the most awkward line delivery, and that's, I don't think Neil Roberts and Andrew Fetz are bad actors. I don't think they're bad voiceover artists. Andrew Fetz was in Sirens of Time as Schmidt doing a German accent, and he was, pretty good in that. But, like, listening to these British people attempt to do this, I guess it's supposed to be like a Koyukon accented English, it's just like...
Yeah, their delivery is not good. It's just not. Gaborik was worse than Tulong.
Yeah, but... Well, okay, his delivery was worse, but Tulong was worse just because Gaborik eats it in episode 2, and you have to endure Tulong the whole story.
Gaborik had the common courtesy to die. Well, hey, that might have been a bit of a downer, but what wasn't a downer was me making a joke about the Land Before Time last week in our outro, and not knowing, just not even having an inkling of how right I really was. Because guess what? This story is about dinosaurs coming back to life, basically.
Kind of. It's, tangentially about dinosaurs. It's about things that ate dinosaurs. There's an Earthshock reference in this story, so bravo. Bravo, Steve Cole, bravo.
I actually missed that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, the doctor says something like, the mass extinction event that wiped out the dinosaurs is pretty well known, and Nissa says something like, yeah, more well known by us than anybody else.
Oh, damn. Yeah, not even a kind word for Adric there.
Well, let's jump into the plot, I suppose.
The story starts with a howling wind that actually persists for the entire thing, if you didn't notice. It was there in the background the entire time. No, it wasn't. I'm just kidding. Just making that up.
Yeah, the TARDIS lands in Alaska. According to the TARDIS wiki, the bastion of all knowledge, Doctor Who, indicates that this is only one of 2 stories in Doctor Who, in the Doctor Who universe set in Alaska.
I'm sure
The other one is a random Seventh Doctor audio drama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. What does surprise me, though, is that the Doctor and Nyssa see a plane, and they're like, "Wow, that was weird."
Well, they detect a weird energy reading
Yeah.
coming from the direction of the plane, and they see the plane flying away. It's a bright yellow plane, and then they like hear an explosion, and then the energy readings cut out. And they get back in the TARDIS, and the TARDIS kind of shunts them forward 30 years. And the Doctor's like, "That's weird. It's almost like the TARDIS is following something."
Yeah, I'm sure that's just nothing. Probably not going to come into play at all.
Yeah, probably not related to the plot at all, right? Like.
Well, we're introduced to the most annoying character in this story, and at this point in Big Finish, in its entirety, Monica Lewis.
She was fine.
She wasn't
really
fine.
Not as annoying as you're making it out to be. She was fine.
Every single line from her was like a slap in the face.
Yeah, well, okay. You deal with the last 3 years of your life being completely wiped out in one day. Not only being wiped out, but then your life being under threat for 24 contiguous hours where you don't know if you're going to survive or not. And then when you do, you have literally nothing left. Yeah. I'm sure you would react. I'm sure you would react perfectly fine. I'm sure you'd be completely agreeable in that situation.
Hey, look, I didn't know I was dealing with a Monica...
Monica Lewis apologist.
Yeah. Well, her, like... The reason I say that is that, like, every single line from her was just, like, some sarcastic bite at, like, the previous line or just the situation. Like, that was it.
I suppose.
And there is, like... you talk about like this sort of the thing the review mentioned, and you said you kind of felt it throughout the story. I did too, which like the whole like this is sort of like this story feels sort of like a kind of like a jab right at the at the Koyakon in a way, and Monica is like part of that, right? Which is like that she's this she's British, right? I mean, she's just English, I guess. And like none of this like really it matters to her, but like it's almost like she's not taking the situation seriously, or something like that. Yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest like affront to the Koyakon people. I guess I can't say it's an affront because I'm not Koyakon myself, but the biggest weird, like, awkward thing to listen to is how Gaborik is just played as, like... Gaborik just, like, blindly blunders into his own death because he refuses to accept what's happening, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, sucks to be him.
Yeah.
Well, so Monica is the one we're introduced to first, but she plays basically a supplementary role to the entire project that's going on here, which is that Brett, aka Sean Brett, I don't think they ever actually used his first name of Sean, or maybe they did a couple times. Yeah, he's out. This is the wilderness of Alaska, right? And so he's out here. On his own, except for his small group of people, and they are constructing a monument, or basically just a monument to Brett's father, who was an oil baron.
Yeah, Brett Senior. They also only mentioned once that Sean Brett is actually Sean Brett Jr., and that his dad was Sean Brett Senior.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little confused in this first part, actually, because Brett keeps calling Toolong Little Toolong in part 1, and I thought at first that Toolong was like Brett's son.
No,
because they did not make that clear at all until like the end of part 1. And I'm like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
The relationships do kind of unfold in this. They become clear over time. So Tulong and Brett are basically like childhood pals, essentially. They're more like frenemies.
Their dads were friends.
Yeah, there's this like unresolved history between their fathers. They both blame each other's father as the one responsible for the death of their father, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then there's Gaborik, who basically just works for Brett, I believe.
Tulong, we should also mention, is only half Koyukan.
Yeah.
He's not a full Koyukan. I don't remember if it was his dad or his mom who was white.
It was his mom. It was his dad was white from Colorado. That's what he said. Yeah. And so there's that tension too in this character of like he's kind of being pulled in these both directions. Right, he has this cultural background that he doesn't really fully fit in with, but nor does he fit in with Monica and Brett.
Right. So, yeah, the Doctor and Nyssa exit the TARDIS and are chased by a creature and have conveniently brought a flashlight that is too dim to illuminate the creature, so that's great. And then they make their way to this giant house. A mansion. A monument, they call it.
Now, as you mentioned, and as is clear to see here on the TARDIS wiki, the CD of this story originally came with a map or a floor plan, I guess, of Brett's house.
Right.
Which is, it comes in useful, I guess, because as you also mentioned before we started recording, there's like the story provides no sense of space and location whatsoever. It's more similar to Whispers of Terror in that sense than it is to like Phantasmagoria, I guess.
Yeah, part of what really I thought the Stone, Earth, Bone, Timber Room were all in the basement because...
As did I, yep.
I think the reason for that is because they mentioned going downstairs to the rooms after eating dinner, but they never at any point actually mentioned that they had dinner on the second floor. So I just assumed like the dining hall was on the first floor, so that when they went downstairs to the other rooms, they went into the basement.
Yeah, there's no reason you can't believe that. You don't have to go by the map they provide. In fact, I don't even understand, now that I'm looking at the map more closely, I don't even understand the map. Like, what is that rock? I don't know if you're looking at it, but like, what is that rock face thing? Like, what is, like, how does that relate to what the floor plan is?
Wasn't that the rock face that, like, they escaped through the tunnel in to get to the dig site in part 4?
I guess it has to be. The map makes it look like a vertical like thing. I don't know why, but like just having it be like, yeah, all right, I guess it's under the house, so it makes sense. It's like how they're kind of doing it. I'll put a link to the picture in the show notes because what we're talking about probably makes absolutely no sense. Man, it feels like, I don't know. I'm no interior designer or architect or whatever. Yeah, you're no
Monica Lewis.
I know, I'm no Monica Lewis, but like, damn, having the C room in that particular location just seems like a mistake. Like,
the C room is the one room that would most benefit from being in the basement.
Yeah.
So you don't flood the rest of your house.
I know the C room, I don't know how you were imagining it, but for me, like, I just imagined it as like a vast, vast space, like just a room that you can't even see the end of, you just... Because they said they transplanted an entire part of the coastline into a room.
Yeah, I thought it was massive, but maybe they just transplanted like 10 square feet of coastline.
I know, yeah. Yeah. Wait, we should also mention, I don't know why we waited this late to say it, but like this story takes place after Time Flight because it's just the Fifth Doctor and Nyssa. Tegan is nowhere to be found. Adric is dead already.
You kind of forget that, or I forgot briefly that Nyssa like wasn't from Earth, because the doctor's like, oh, we're going to Earth, and then Nyssa's like, oh, like the place we dropped off Tegan. And the doctor's like, that's like the other side of the Earth.
Yeah, Nyssa's from Traken.
Which she mentions, she alludes to Traken in the story too.
I know, and she just blatantly reveals it. Like when she's talking to Tulong, she's just like, I forget the exact line, but it's basically she straight up says like, I'm not from Earth. And Tulong, and this is also relates to Tulong's character, how he doesn't really, because he's like mixed race, he doesn't really fit in. And he goes like, yeah, sometimes feels like that way, doesn't it? So he doesn't pick up what she's actually saying, but yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the story, Nyssa just straight up says that the Doctor's a Time Lord, and just everybody completely doesn't even respond.
Freaking Nyssa just popping truth everywhere.
Anyway, so they decide to eat. They eat dinner. You know, Nyssa and the Doctor escape to Brett's monument. They eat dinner. Tulong says that the meat tastes off, or Gaborik says the meat's like off.
Yeah. It was Gaborik.
Throughout this, Nyssa's having like some sort of head cold. She's got like a major headache. Are you looking at the map of the monument right now?
No. I mean, I have it right here. I can pull it up.
What is that tiny, tiny little room, like in the bottom left corner?
It's just like a closet, I guess. I don't know. It's not labeled, so how would I know?
Why is that there? Anyway, yeah, okay, so this is not feeling well, I guess is the point.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's any other information we find out here in the part 1. We do find out the backstory between Brett and Tulong, which we kind of already explained. Their fathers were co-workers essentially on this archaeological dig, and there was like a cave-in supposedly, and the only one who made it out alive was Brett's father. After which Brett's father like really made it big with oil and stuff like that.
Yeah. We do also get a tour of the elemental rooms.
Yeah. which I didn't actually remember how many there were, but I'm looking again on the map here. I guess the map is coming in useful.
6.
There's the sea room, the ice room, the timber room, and the bone room, the stone room, and the earth room.
It sounds like an Animaniacs song. Sea room, ice room, timber room, bone room, stone room, earth room.
Yeah, I guess. So all these rooms, I guess, are what they sound like.
Yeah, Brett Jr. has clearly lost his mind before the story has even begun. Like, what is he doing? Monica Lewis is here as an interior decorator and has been asked to like decorate these like elemental rooms, and she's like, I don't even know what to do. But part 1 ends with Nyssa in the sea room getting attacked by creatures from the sea.
Yeah, sort of they kind of like, I don't know, imagine it sort of like in a Lovecraftian way. They're kind of creeping out of the sea or something like that.
Part 2, did you notice at the beginning of part 2, someone, I think it's Brett Jr., just yells like, my leg!
Really? Like the SpongeBob character?
Yeah. Because the door's jammed, and I guess when they get it open, someone goes like, my leg! Anyway, yeah, so Nyssa escapes and says that she was being attacked by the same creatures that her and the Doctor saw outside, and she saw them in a better light, and basically they're like weird, hybrid, monstrous creatures.
Yeah, they're sort of these like chimeras of like different sea creatures and stuff. Gaborik just comes out and he's like, yeah, this is revenge by the spirits.
So revenge by Sedna, the ancient sea god of my people. And then he tells us about how Sedna created the sea spirit, the ancient sea spirit, and how she created like all life in the ocean.
Yeah, I forget why he says that this spirit wants revenge. I guess Brett is just like infringing on its, I don't know, territory or something. But
Well, Gaboric believes that Brett has defiled the local area. So
Right,
I don't know
right.
if we find this out in part 1 or part 2, but somebody reveals that Brett only hired Gaboric and Toulon to basically make peace with the local Koyukon population. So because they believe he's like defiling this land, and he
Right.
he hired basically, Gaboric and Toulon as cultural consultants, I guess. Gaboric believes that what Brett is doing is perverting the natural landscape, kidnapping all the animals, especially for the sea room, because he apparently keeps actual animals in the sea room. Like kidnapping those animals is a perversion of nature.
Yeah, that's what led me to like look at this map and be like, man, the sea room, like I thought the sea room was like magnitudes larger than what it said on the map. But yeah,
me too.
Gaboric was basically just like a go-between, like you said. I don't know why he was picked as the go-between, because he's not in favor of what Brett is doing. But yeah.
He also believes that he was the one who possibly brought about. He says that Adliven is stirring and that he helped bring it about. Monica reveals she knows why. Was it Monica? Or Toulon, I think, reveals that he knows why Gaboric thinks this. And apparently Gaboric, actually no, I think it was Monica. Gaboric has been stealing the felt, the like animal skins that Brett has been importing to decorate the house, and he's been selling them at the local encampment.
Right, and so like Gaboric himself is like rather like not genuine or something like that. And there's this thing too in the story of like Gaboric, I guess pretty explicitly is like regardless of his beliefs, he's kind of just using his like his position, or like his like the Koyukon culture or background or whatever, is like kind of an excuse to like just make a quick buck type thing.
Yeah, he says basically that he self-justified it because he basically said that Brett had already defiled the creatures and they were dead already. So that's by selling the pelts, he wasn't additionally defiling the animals.
Yeah, well, so and his death, which is about to come up, I guess, is kind of in line, I think, with the rest of the story, because we're going to get into it more in part 3 and 4. But like, I mean, this is a story about like contending with the past, right, and not just, I don't know, not just memorializing it or putting it in a box and shoving it in the closet type thing. Just kind of what Gaboric is more in the direction of. But yeah, he eats it. He freaking dies. Brett, I believe Brett is like, oh yeah, I guess that's a little bit later. But yeah, Brett is like, he's not well either. He's like, man, I don't feel good, which is like the most inopportune time. The creatures are attacking, and he just goes to like lay down or something.
Yeah, apparently Nissa at this point is feeling better again, so
yeah, good for her. They do the most British thing ever, which is that like the creatures are attacking, there's impending danger, and they go and make some tea.
Well, before that happens, actually, we skipped something that's important here, which is that Monica's in the stone room and there's a crack in the wall.
I know, it's the 11th Doctor all over again, except first.
And she sees something in the crack, and eventually in part 2 it comes to the forefront enough for the Doctor to get a bone sample off of it. It's apparently like a moving fossil, so the Doctor's really confused, and it's really hot to the touch. So the Doctor's going to go analyze this bone sample, but then I must have missed it. She was originally going to go originally going to analyze this bone sample, but then somehow it like swapped and Nissa was going to go do it instead. Like I said, I really missed missed when that swap happened. But anyway, Nyssa and Toulon go to analyze the thing, and that's when the Doctor and Monica basically just make tea while they wait.
Yeah, Nyssa and Toulon go to there's an encampment, I guess, that is fairly nearby. And so they go out to over there. But there's a lot of that in this story. I experienced that too, of like, wait, what? Like, there's a lot of moments of like, come again? Like, you kind of just, I don't know, miss certain parts. I guess that's more on us, but whatever.
Just a side note, the TARDIS wiki page said, like, you may be looking for the in-universe story, The Land of the Dead. So I clicked it, and then, like, the next page was like, oh, in one story, they referenced the story, and I clicked that, and apparently Big Finish exists within the Doctor Who universe, so...
Amazing.
Yeah. Just wanted to throw that out there for everyone.
Astounding. I'll say it again. I've said it before and I'll say it again, but I truly believe that TARDIS.fandom.com is one of the most surreal experiences you can have on the public internet in 2022. Anyway, Toulon and Nyssa going out to this camp is a good excuse and a good time, actually, for Toulon to drop a little bit more of his backstory. We kind of already explained this, but this is where he kind of goes into more detail about his parents, right? Him being mixed race, his father being remembered as a coward, at least in his opinion.
He ends up getting killed by the bone creature quite shortly after this, because the bone creature escapes because the Doctor and Monica realize they've made a terrible mistake. Because they thought that the monster was trying to tunnel into the stone room, but they were wrong. Turns out it was actually tunneling back into the earth room.
Right, and so this is Gaborik who dies. I guess he's just there, and the creature consumes him. And after it eats him, it evolves. Fully imbibes everything that Gaborik was and ever would be, and evolves into something better, a more efficient carnivore, a more efficient predator. And that's when they get a phone call. It's also where part 2 ends.
Part 2 ends after the phone call cuts off awkwardly.
Mm-hmm. We skipped one thing, which is that Nyssa just dropping bombs of truth, just revealing things willy-nilly that maybe she shouldn't be. But as Toulon is telling her the history of his father and Brett's, she's just like, "Hey Toulon, I saw the plane." She's like, "Wait, come again?"
Yeah.
She's like, "Yeah, I saw the plane that Brett's father escaped on." And
yeah, because Toulon always believed that. I guess we had explained that they blamed each other's dad, but we never explained what they believed. Toulon believed that Brett's dad escaped in a yellow plane, and that he was basically a coward. And Brett's believed that his dad left after the cave-in, like that the cave-in had happened and was caused by Toulon's dad, and that then he left and wasn't, and that he tried to save everybody before leaving.
Right.
So when Nyssa reveals that she saw the plane, she reveals that she saw the plane leaving, like, before the explosion happened.
Yep. But they don't have time to delve into that, because they are also simultaneously attacked by the other creatures, the hybrids.
Right.
Into part 3, they realize that the Doctor and Monica, that is, realize that the creature that killed Gaborik is, like we mentioned, evolving. It's getting better. It's getting stronger. Mm-hmm. After having consumed Gaborik. It's like a Digimon or something. Like it eats and just instantly evolves into something that resembles what it ate or something like that. So.
Excuse me, in Digimon, it's Digivolving?
Oh, yeah, all right. Not in the original Japanese version, which I've watched in its entirety every single season except the newest one.
Don't know why you would do that, but okay. I mean, I like Digimon, but even I wouldn't do that.
What happens next?
Part 3 begins.
Yeah.
the monster like escapes into the hallway and kind of stutters and stags. I don't know. Anyway, staggers.
Yeah, staggers.
Yeah, thanks.
I didn't say that, but okay. You said it.
Well, I kind of felt like for some reason you were going to say it.
I was.
Yeah. So the Doctor theorizes that the modern polyester and like the manufactured components are confusing the creature, which like what? But okay, whatever.
Well, they also have this other theory, which I think turns out to be right, which is that the generator at the camp is attracting the hybrids. At least I think that's what it was. This is the part in the story, I liked this story, but I will admit, and I will say that into parts 3 and 4, probably because I listened to this all in one stretch, into parts 3 and 4, I was more like, I was going more towards like, alright, just let this be over type thing. Because there is a lot of like, there's something to be said, something I think very good to be said about a story that slowly sets things up and builds a mystery and then just rushes through it at the end. Just really gets everything out of the way. Or I guess I'll put that in a less condescending light. Like a story that takes its time at the beginning to set things up and then gets faster as it goes. This story was not one of those. In fact, it actually felt like it moved slower as it went. Kind of like things being encased in sort of ice. I don't know. It felt like maybe things were being frozen and
honey. It's just encased in honey.
Amber. Yeah.
Amber.
Yeah.
We spared no expense.
Yeah. Amber. What is amber? It's not honey, right? Oh, it's tree sap.
It's tree sap.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a Jurassic Park. There's no amber in this story, but that's a Jurassic Park connection if there ever was one, right? I'm pretty sure the way they revive the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park is through amber, right? It's through like a bug.
Yeah,
they extract like the DNA.
There's a mosquito. Yeah, they find mosquitoes in amber, mosquitoes that have sucked up dino blood.
Yeah.
Which is plausible. It's a plausible theory, but so improbable as to be impossible.
But it just sounds like funny, like, and I don't know, like just describing it or something. Anyway, what the hell were we even talking about? Oh, right, the story moving at a glacial pace. Yeah. Well, guess what else is emitting the energy that's attracting the hybrids? The other creature, which the Doctor begins calling the Permian because it's from the Permian age.
Yeah. Why not, Doc?
You have the Bronze Age, you got the Stone Age, you got whatever other age, and then you have the Permian age, the current age, because it's permanent. That's what it's named for. No, I'm just kidding. That's not what it is.
Keon, just lying on the podcast again.
Happens multiple times a week.
Anyway, Monica and the Doctor come up with this great plan to like jam the door shut with like chairs, which like as if that's gonna. I mean, the thing just tunneled through rock, but like the wooden chair will stop it.
Yeah, no, this is described as like it's not a dinosaur, but it is dinosaur-like, right? That's how I imagined it at least, and it's sort of It's not just any dinosaur; it's like a velociraptor.
It was more Velociraptor-esque before consuming
Yes,
Gaboric.
They make mention of the fact that after eating Gaboric, its spine kind of straightens, it stands a little more upright, its tail is a little bit less pronounced. And what I thought was going to happen was that I guess there's not enough characters in the story for it to have enough victims to be able to do this, but I thought it was going to like continually evolve into a more primate or human-like state.
Yeah, we would need more humans for that, Keon. We need more sacrifices. Need more sacrificial lambs for the slaughter.
More pentagrams drawn in blood.
What else happened?
Okay, there's this reveal that is just glossed over that feels like it should be as glossed over as it was, but it's actually just like a 1-2 punch of of like, wait, what the hell is actually happening? Because first Nissa reveals that she's from an alien planet to Tulung. She just doesn't even try to hide it. She's just like I mentioned before, Tulung doesn't pick up on it, I guess luckily, but she doesn't even try to hide it. Then, not 2 minutes after, someone, probably Monica, reveals that, I guess it's probably the doctor, maybe, I forget, but like, they reveal that they've been eating irradiated flesh. Like, the food that they've been consuming. That's why everyone started to feel sick.
Well, I don't think it's irradiated like in the way that just saying irradiated would imply. I think it's because it's imbued with the energy of the Permians as well.
Yes, that's what I meant. Yeah, I should have said that, but yeah. And
that's why Monica is completely unaffected the whole story, because she's vegetarian.
I know.
Yeah, chalk one up for the vegetarians.
So that's why you're so embedded in the Monica Lewis camp. I keep wanting to say Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah, me too.
That's why you're so far in the Monica Lewis camp. I see. It all makes sense now.
Doesn't the Sixth Doctor go vegetarian at some point?
Oh, really? Does he? I don't remember.
Why do I remember that? Why do I remember that as a fact of his character?
I don't know. I couldn't say. I think what happens next is that Tulung starts to get a little bit more religious, let's just say.
Well, yeah, because... Well, the reason for this is because Nissa somehow essentially gets the creatures to leave them alone.
Yeah, I forget.
Psychically, I suppose. Because they get attacked on the way to the... little like research shack they're going to use. Mm-hmm. And they run over one of the Permians, but it doesn't kill it. And she eventually gets it to stop attacking them somehow. Although I think what actually happened is it just got distracted by like the Doctor being a more pressing issue.
Does she run for a Permian or a hybrid? I forget. I'm pretty sure it was a hybrid. I don't know.
Might have been a hybrid, probably a hybrid. Don't you just love how they also like don't resolve the problem of the hybrids at the end of the story, and the Doctor just goes, they'll probably die because there's no Permian energy anymore.
Yeah, the Permian was what was causing the hybrids to go haywire, but yeah, it does seem to be a problem. There's these chimeric beasts roaming the lands. Oh well, I guess. There's also, as the previous couple stories have done, the story doesn't give you a clear image of what the hybrids really are or what they look like. You're free. It's left to your imagination. Nor the Permians.
The sea creature one they did. They kind of explained how it's got like eyes all over, and there's like walrus and whale and seal parts.
Yeah, I guess it's just hard to kind of imagine. So it's sort of like just this nebulous blob in your mind. Yeah.
Yeah, but imagine if this had been a TV story. It would have been like Merca levels. Yeah.
They do kind of describe the Permian as well. It doesn't really have developed eyesight, I think.
Well, it's literally just a skeleton, they say.
Yeah, I guess I guess I didn't interpret that as literally as they may have been.
Oh, I interpreted it pretty literally myself.
Just a skeleton. Yeah, that's where we were talking about with the intro.
For some reason, the word ensconced popped into my mind while we were talking about that, even though it's a word completely unrelated to what we're talking about.
Ensconced? Not really. They're kind of ensconced in the house, right?
Yeah, I suppose. In a way.
I don't know why I even know that word.
Neither do I, honestly.
I think that's the first time I've ever said it aloud, but...
Me too.
Whatever.
Me too.
Now, the whole thing with Tulung, though, is he's getting a little bit more superstitious. He's getting a little bit more religious. And this is because he believes that Nissa is like is like some sort of good luck charm or something like that.
Right.
So he decides, I believe he decides that he and Brett need to resolve their unfinished business. So he starts taking Nissa back to the mansion.
Right.
Brett wakes up in the midst of the attack, right? Monica and the doctor have been dealing with this. Brett just waltzes in. He's like, "Hey guys, what's going on here?" And as soon as he realizes what's happening, he's just like, "Oh hell no!" And he leaves. He just goes out in the frozen wilds, just probably in his slippers, probably in his robe.
He runs into Toolong out there.
Yeah, I know I forget whether it's Brett or Toolong who's doing this, but either way, what they're doing is they're burning the Permians or it's either the Permians or the hybrids. I don't remember. They're burning their favorite food, which this seems like a jump into shark infested waters with a gaping wound type strategy. But they say that it'll appease the spirits of the creatures or whatever, so.
So they think.
Yeah. Nissa, meanwhile, is just like, "Hey guys, can we stop? Can we just go back and help the doctor? Can we? And for the first time in their lives, Brett and Toolong are aligned with their answer, which is no.
Yeah, because they decide to take Nissa. They decide to steal Nissa because Brett has bought into Toolong's delusional belief that Nissa is keeping them safe somehow. And they believe they should go to the dig site, basically.
Mm-hmm. To resolve basically this feud between them that has been inherited from their fathers. And they decide to tie up Nissa outside at the front of the cave-in so that she can keep the creatures at bay while they finish their business, I guess.
Yeah, so part 3 ends with them kidnapping Nissa and in a delusional state, threatening to snap Nissa's neck, and I'm like, that would completely defeat the purpose of taking Nissa, but alright, you guys do you. Just kind of proving that they're a little delusional at this point.
Right. Meanwhile, back at the house, Monica and the doctor are not having any luck abating the creatures because apparently the Permian can harness the power of water and cause tidal waves. Another factor that led me to believe that the sea room was just massive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the house gets flooded. Sorry. I'm tired here.
Yeah, you're tired of the story.
Well, yeah, like I said, I was kind of tired of it into part 4. But I'm also tired because I barely got any sleep. As usual.
as normal. People don't hear about Keon's whack sleep schedule, but I do off recording, before we start recording, and I'm always going, why do you do this to yourself?
Yeah, I don't really publicize on this podcast my whack life and my poor health habits, I guess. But yeah, let's just leave it at that. So we didn't actually mention this, but throughout the entire story, they've been making Chekhov's gun-style references to some cans of paint. And as soon as at least the second time they mention it, probably even the first, because let's be honest, this isn't a very descriptive story. So
no.
So when you point out paint, even the first time, you're like, all right, that's coming back, and that's going to be important, baby. and it is. Yeah, so the house gets flooded, and the doctor's like, hey, what are those cans of paint? And Monica, once again, is like, that paint's expensive. You better not waste that paint. It costs a lot of money.
And he's like, yeah, well, watch me.
Yeah, it's either money or your life. And I'd choose money every time, but that's just me.
If you're not alive, what are you going to do with the money?
Well, as it turns out, apparently, you can take it with you. No, I don't know. Look, I'm not saying the ancient Egyptian pharaohs had the right idea being buried with their riches, but, you know, I'm taking my wallet to the grave. Anyway, the doctor's plan is to douse the creatures in paint because it'll deter them in some way. But he realizes that, you know, post-flood, right, the creature is nowhere to be found, actually.
Right.
There are a lot of bones in the water, and I believe that these are bones of the hybrids. But the Permian itself is not around anymore.
Right. So this is very suspicious.
Meanwhile, something else suspicious is happening. The past is being uncovered for real this time as Brett and Tulung venture deeper into the caves. Now, what they discover down there is something that Brett has apparently, we learn, known all along, which is that in the caves are the remains of Permians. Just bones everywhere. This truly...
It's also the remains of humans.
Right. And Tulung goes, wow, this truly is the land of the dead. No, he doesn't say that.
Roll credits.
Yeah, this is Big Finish, so there's no credits. I seem to remember other audio stories having some form of credits, but maybe I'm just misremembering.
So, yeah, some later ones did have credits. You're not misremembering. Some of the later ones did.
These early ones don't, though. Maybe the people involved are just like, nah, don't even associate me.
Don't even bother.
Yeah, I'm assuming the credits were printed in some sort of CD insert. Otherwise...
Probably in the same insert the map was printed in, right?
They had to have been. By the way, last week we questioned whether or not Big Finish, like the Big Finish site, was live in 1999. Turns out it was, but it most likely was not owned by the current Big Finish, and if it was, I don't know what they were doing on it. Because it was an ad. I went on archive.org and it was an advertisement for like a muscle contest in New Zealand.
You could say there would be a big finish at the contest.
Why would you say that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I
don't know what you're referring to or what that joke was really, what it was, but that's fine. Anyway, what's not fun is the history between Brett and Tulung, which is just unraveling into more and more layers of absurdity. So apparently Brett's father, he basically, he was kind of trying to do the opposite of what Brett was, right? Brett is trying to pay homage to his father, memorialize his father and memorialize the past, whereas Brett's father wanted the exact opposite of that, right? He wanted to bury this situation that he had gotten himself into.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, as it turns out, meant burying his colleagues.
Well, we find out like multiple revelations about what happened that day here, because at first Brett's like, my dad was a hero. He caved it in to trap all the Permians, and then Tulung finds dynamite in his dad's bag, and he's like, no, my dad was the hero who like blew up all the Permians.
Right, so essentially Tulung's father sacrificed himself. He used dynamite, sort of the cartoon classic style dynamite, it seems like, to cause the cave-in, preventing the Permians from escaping. Yeah.
the doctor kind of realizes what... I don't actually think we explained that the doctor and Monica have made it to this dig by traveling through the same like tunnel that the Permian traveled through.
Yeah.
So that's how they got back.
Yeah, so they show up, and this is rather unclear. I'm sure they mentioned it, but like when they showed up, I was like, wait, what? And I obviously just gathered that there's like an underground connecting tunnel, but yeah. By the way, we didn't mention that Brett's father faked the inquest. When they went to... He used money to cover it up, essentially. Another more proof positive that you should and can take it with you. But, or that the effects linger after your own death. But, like, the investigation into what happened at the cave and all of this, he faked, he covered up, and, you know, that's kind of why he was trying to do the opposite of what Brett was. He was trying to hide the past and just put it in his pocket and forget about it type thing.
Right.
But Brett has gone off the deep end, and he's like, nah, we need to, you know, he's creating this monument to his father, whom he, and this is why these revelations are kind of like, I guess more important than they already are in the stories, because, like, Brett already knows all of this. Like, Tulung is having these massive, like, shocks to his system, and Brett is like, yeah, you didn't know? You didn't know? So he's like, creating this monument to this guy, his father, right, who he knows is, like, really not who he was cracked up to be.
Mm-hmm. He's creating a monument to a falsehood, basically.
Yep.
Anyway, there's only one stick of dynamite left, so Brett's like, it's mine, I'm doing this. And blows himself up, but doesn't destroy all the Permians. Because he blows up and you look and there's, like, still 9 minutes left in the story and you're like, what?
Yeah, there's the explosion too is, like, massive. Like, I don't know, it seems disproportionately large. But what do I know? Anyway, they decide to kill the rest of the Permians with fire. That too, it's like, it's pretty on the nose, right? Is that, like, the Permians are a prehistoric and, according to the publisher's summary, unimaginably ancient force, and they kill them with, you know, one of the first human inventions or whatever, fire.
Well, the thing is, like, he talks about how the Permians can harness all the, like, natural energies. Stone, earth, sea, ice, timber. Together combined, we are Captain Planet. And,
this story, it literally begs you to make that reference.
Just amazing we went this long before we did it.
I know, but it had heart, too, so there's that as well.
But apparently the Permians can't control fire because it's too unpredictable.
Yeah, it's too volatile. And so they kill the rest of them with fire, and then it ends. Monica makes 10,000 sarcastic comments in the last 5 minutes.
That's a little bit of an exaggeration. It's more like 9,995, but...
Either way, it's over 9,000. Same as the number of years since anyone last that meme. And that's it, basically. That's everything, you know, all is well that ends well. It ends on the sitcom note of Tulung and Monica walking arm in arm into the sunset. They literally go,
literally.
Wow, that was weird. And go home. Plus, where the hell are they walking? They're out in the middle of nowhere, and they make reference to it multiple times that they're isolated and stranded. Now, as I've mentioned multiple times, I loved this story. I think it's the best of the 4 we've listened to so far this season. It was more thematically rich and interesting than the other stories, and...
Yes, I disagree with those assessments, but continue.
You know, I'm not one to engage, you know, too often in moral criticism, but I felt that, like, the message of this was sort of, maybe not good, but sort of important or something to pay attention to. Which is that the way to deal with the past is neither to memorialize it nor to, like, to deny it, but instead to deal with it. And that kind of you know, it's interesting too that, like, we're not counting Monica because she's kind of just comic relief actually, but, like, of the story specific characters, we had Tulung, who was mixed, right? He's white and native, and then we had Gaborik, and then we had Brett. And so the one who makes it out alive in this is Tulung, right? He's the mixed race guy, right? So, and you can kind of see Gaborik as like an embodiment of this idea that like we need to keep the past alive, we can't let go of it, and Brett is like this. Or actually, it's the opposite. Honestly, Brett is the guy who's doing that, whereas Gaborik is like he's kind of a faker, right? He's just using this for his own benefit, whereas Tulung he has both of those within him or something like that. So, yeah. You did it again, Stephen Cole. You did it again. Just kidding. I don't know. Actually, now that I say that out loud, that is actually like rather interesting. That like you think it would be the opposite, right? Is like the Native American character would be more interested in like in like a tradition or keeping the past alive and stuff like this, right? As like a stereotype. But in this, it's not. It's freaking Brett.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't get a lot out of this story, so you're kind of on your own with this one.
Yeah, out on my own in the frozen wastes of Alaska. But hey, the Fifth Doctor being in the lead role is always nice, always a good time. He's kind of monopolized Big Finish at this point in its history. You know?
Yeah, but his monopoly will soon come to a close as we have a 7th Doctor story next week and a 6th Doctor story the week after. So
yeah, so really evening things out.
Next week will be our first 7th Doctor solo audio in this kind of section of the podcast, this season, I suppose.
Yeah. Has an interesting title, which we will drop at the end as we always do.
But before then, we did look up some actors for this story.
Yeah, that we did.
So I looked up Lucy Campbell briefly, who voices Monica Lewis. She doesn't have a linked IMDb page, so she probably doesn't have one, but she appears in one other audio story for Big Finish called Square One. And that's it.
Yeah, the guy who played Brett, similarly, this is his only role in Big Finish, but he does have another role in the webcast Real Time. Real Time is like an animated... I didn't know what it was until I just looked it up right before we started recording, but it was like an animated thing that was available on the BBC site in like 2002.
Right. But on a more interesting note, I looked up Andrew Fetz. He played Gaborik. Like I said, he was also in Signs of Time as Schmidt. He's in a bunch of audios. He was also in those BBV Auton productions. But yeah, he's in a bunch of main range stories. The Nightmare Fair, which I think we've actually listened to.
That we have, yes. Yeah.
Companion Chronicles, Diary of a Song. I mean, he also has not an extensive acting career. Most of his stuff on IMDb are those Auton videos, but he was also in the TV series Pennyworth and EastEnders.
Hell yeah, EastEnders. So I just looked this up, or I just saw it rather, but apparently Real Time, just to take us a step back for a second, was the first time that a Big Finish character had appeared in a BBC production. So it's apparently notable for that. And ended in an unresolved cliffhanger. Anyway, finally, I've looked up Neil Roberts. He also doesn't have an IMDb link on his TARDIS wiki page, leading me to believe that he doesn't have an IMDb page at all. I tried looking him up. There's like 40 Neil Roberts, so that didn't really result in anything. But anyway, he's been in a couple other Big Finish main range stories. Kingdom of Silver, Keepsake, and The Defactors. The defectors.
The defactors.
Well, I thought it was like his pun, right? It was like the de facto factors or something, but it's actually just the defectors. He also directed the Companion Chronicles Ring Pull World.
Huh. Well, we have some emails to read. One from Douglas Riffle, subject Doctor Who. Hey guys, I'm really excited that you are tackling the Big Finish audios. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this different medium of Who. I personally enjoy them, though not as much as televised Who. It's pretty easy to get distracted and miss what's going on. When it was first announced, so just reader's note here, we have some commentary from someone who was actually around when it was, first coming out. Anyway, when it was first announced back in 1999 that Big Finish had been licensed to do Doctor Who audios, I was really excited. All we had for New Who in a decade was books, the TV movie, and Curse of Fatal Death. I was really looking forward to it and got some of the Bernice Summerfield audios while I waited for Sirens of Time. I remember the Bernice audios being really good, especially Oh No It Isn't and Walking to Babylon. It's been a long time since I've listened to these, and maybe they're not as good as I remember, but it gave me good hope for the Doctor Who audios. I feel that the Doctor Who audios are a mixed bag. Some are really good and some are just okay, kind of like the TV show, I guess. Regarding RTD coming back to produce the TV show, I'm reservedly excited. He did a fantastic job in bringing Doctor Who back to the TV in 2005. Although looking back, his air is probably my least favorite of New Who. I really enjoyed it when it aired. Also, having just recently rewatched that era, I still really enjoyed some of the episodes. I do agree with you guys regarding Fear Her. I think it's probably the worst of New Who. Although Return of the Sea Devils could give it a run for its money. But I disagree with you on Love and Monsters. Sorry?
I was just saying, like Legend. Was it Legend of the Sea Devils?
Maybe he wrote Return of the Sea Devils. So,
oh well, the episode was called Legend, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, gotcha.
But he said, but I disagree with you on Love and Monsters, despite its creepy implications. Elton says we even have a love life. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. Anyway, of New Who, the Moffat era is my favorite, and he's my favorite writer as well. I also have thoroughly enjoyed the Chibnall-Whittaker era more than I thought I would. So regarding Big Finish audio, Sirens of Time is a fine start, I think. Although the story is overly convoluted and just basically not very good, having the Three Doctors back for the intro story works and appeals to more of an audience, I think. It's a long story and it works for an introduction to this new medium. Phantasmagoria, however, really captures the classic Who feel, I think. I've listened to these audios quite a few times over the years and I find I still thoroughly enjoyed this one. I think Turlo is great. He just wants to eat. Also, the reveal about Lovemore and Hannah being alien is quite a good cliffhanger. Not the best story, but I really enjoyed this one. Oh, by the way, I'm still going through my second complete listen-through of Trust Your Doctor. I'm getting close. Just finished The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe. Thanks, guys, and keep up the good work, Doug. P.S. You mentioned on a recent episode that you had both heard about the show The Strangerers. I mentioned this to you a while back, and I think you should consider doing it for Inevitable. Okay, it's not a very good show, but it is funny and quirky, and best of all, it's short. At least look into it. Thanks.
Well, considering we take recommendations from just one person alone, which is why how we watched Blake 7. As we mentioned before, yeah, The Strangers should definitely now be topping our list, I think.
Yeah, I when I Google searched it here, it came up as I've already searched it before. And yeah, it's only 9 episodes, so maybe we can slot it in there sometime.
Same as Star Cops, I believe.
Yeah. Paul Darrow's even in it.
Oh, nice.
Did I? Oh, man. I'm going to put this in the show notes because it's so funny, but there was a tweet recently. There was a tweet recently that's like, nobody could deliver this line like Paul Darrow. And it's Paul Darrow coming in like, call the police. My wife has been murdered. Like, delivered like that. Isn't it delivered in the most goofy way possible? Everyone's like, Paul Darrow, you were such a legend. I'll put the link to the video in the show notes so people can experience it for themselves.
I'd be curious to know, because we were talking about this last week too, is like, how was Big Finish marketed in 1999? So.
Yeah, I suppose Doug may have information on that.
Yeah. It's like, he says like,
when they were first announced.
He says, when they're first announced, like, when I first heard about the Doctor Who audios coming out, I was excited. It's like, well, okay, how did you, first learn about them? I'd be very curious to learn.
Yeah, that's something we've talked about on the show before, too, is like, well, how did people learn about these things, right?
Yeah, the Big Finish website in 1999 clearly was not advertising them. Nor was it owned by the Big Finish we currently know and love. But yeah, thanks for the email, Doug.
Well, we have another email from Stephen. Yeah, thank you for reaching out, Doug. It's good to hear from you again, and it's good to hear you're almost done with your second complete listen through of Trust Your Doctor. You've probably now listened to most of those episodes more than we have. But from Stephen, insert subject here. Hey guys, so first off, we got the news that the 14th Doctor will be Shurigawa. I haven't seen him in anything before, but at least the casting doesn't feel like a step backward. Now those Return of David Tennant rumors can just go die in a hole. Joke's on you, Stephen. People still think he's going to come back like in between Jodie and Shuri, so anyway. Well, Stephen, guess what? Turns out those rumors were true, because literally, as we stopped recording, the Doctor Who's social media page posted, and I quote, "They're back. David Tennant and Catherine Tate returned to Doctor Who." And then it says, read more here, but then the link is broken, I think, because it's not available in my region. So, oops.
Yeah,
Take that.
Posted that post a little bit too early, but yeah, I mean, they had to have been coming back, like in some even minor capacity. Like it wasn't even a question. And not Catherine Tate, but David Tennant.
Yeah. And presumably this is them returning for the 60th anniversary special. There had been leaks this week. People had apparently seen David Tennant with his hood up to hide himself around Bad Wolf Studios this week, and they've apparently started filming on the 60th anniversary special this week. So people were starting to connect dots that maybe necessarily had no point being connected, but with this official social media announcement that links to a webpage I can't access, we now know that David Tennant and Catherine Tate are officially back. Presumably by the time this episode actually goes out, there'll be an actual like post on the news page somewhere that I can access that I'll put into the show notes for people to go ahead and read.
Yeah.
According to the comments on the post, I'm not the only one who can't access the news page, so that's kind of hilarious. They must have released the social media post all
I know there's
early.
Probably like news editors on their site scrambling as we speak to get the post up.
Well, David Tennant was the most popular reboot Doctor in terms of like worldwide viewership, so this is kind of big news. And I guess I don't want to stick on this too long. I don't want this edition to be too long, but do you think that this paves the way for more previous Doctors to return in the 60th special? Like, do we think Peter Capaldi, Christopher Eccleston maybe, in a pipe dream universe, Paul McGann even maybe returning in the 60th? You know, Jodie maybe even? Like, what do you think this is opening the door?
I don't see why this would be opening the door. I think the door was always open, right?
Sure, okay, so I think maybe this opens the door a little more, right? Like, the door was always open. It was a big anniversary special. People were like, well, was the Doctor going to come back? But the confirmation that at least one previous Doctor's returning, I think kind of... expands.
I think it does maybe indicate that
at least
more will be coming back, I guess.
It's also interesting that this kind of means, presuming that this is the 60th anniversary special they're referring to, because again, the news article is completely busted, that the 14th Doctor's first story is going to be a multi-Doctor story.
Yeah. Yeah, speak of the devil.
Well, anyway, back to your regularly scheduled episode. I saw a tweet where someone asked if you could title the 14th Doctor's first episode, what would it be? My vote would be, quote, The Timeless Child, unquote. The episode we got is titled The Timeless Children, so this would technically still be different. I do hope there is some sort of reference to that Timeless Child revelation. Could even just be a line from the Doctor saying, I've lived well over 30 lives. Regarding multi-Doctor stories, I actually generally find them fun. With Signs of Time, I was disappointed that it took forever for the Doctors to meet up, but then again, looking back, that's what happened in the 5 Doctors, and I love that special. Maybe that one was edited better. In any case, more multi-Doctor stories, please. I was kind of surprised when Keon said he didn't know what Doctor Who Unbound was, and Dylan didn't take the time to explain. It's basically Doctor Who what if stories from Big Finish. Most of these are pretty cheap, like $2 or something. I once mentioned on the show that there was one where the second Doctor regenerated into a woman, though that story aged terribly. Some of these Unbound stories are pretty good, though. I still need to listen to the recent one where Colin Baker is the War Doctor. If I remember correctly from what I read, that one aged terribly because it insinuated that a Time Lord needed to commit suicide to change genders. But anyway. Furthermore, I finished listening to Zenith, a Frankenstein podcast. While the act of actually watching Blake 7 wasn't as fun, listening to the podcast was. I could hear the seeds of Space 1999 being recommended even that far back, and I'm several episodes into that show. It was, I have to say, cringeworthy to hear Lex getting recommended to you at a time when you didn't know what you were in for. Keep up the good work, Steven, sent from AOL on broadband.
Oh god, well, now Steven has experienced probably the best episode we've ever put out, and it was all downhill from there, aka Zenith's final episode. I still remember that recording session, honestly.
The last one for Big Finish?
For Zenith.
Sorry, for Zenith, excuse me, for Blake 7 is what I wanted to say, but
yeah, it took forever.
Yeah, because it was like 3 hours long. I think it's the longest single piece of content we recorded. I think at one point I combined our War Games, episodes into one long episode, and I think that's actually the longest single piece of content we've released, but we didn't record that in one session, whereas the Blake 7 finale episode, the Zenith finale, was recorded in one session. It took frickin' forever.
Mm-hmm.
But thanks for reaching out, Stephen. Thanks for reaching out, Doug, both of you. It's always good to hear from our fans, and I think both of you had some interesting points to make this week.
Yeah, I was going to make a snide comment there, but you know what?
You were going to pull a Monica Lewis.
Yeah, exactly. That actually, yes, that's why. Now we've identified it. We know why you like her and why I don't, is because she was kind of dethroning me in a way. You liked her because she was vegetarian, but yeah, she was kind of, taking my spot a little bit type thing. So.
Well, on that note, assuming we have no social media comments.
Yeah, you'd be right to assume that.
Okay. Well, if you'd like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctor@decadavevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on Land of the Dead. I've heard a lot of people say, questions, comments, concerns. Recently, in my head, I always just finish it, with angry rants, love letters.
Yep, every time.
You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. You can find us anywhere you find podcasts at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Let's check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. Next time, we're going to be listening to The Fearmonger, but until then, the end.